Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. So today we're going to be looking at the world of international business, or IB.
Okay.
And we've got this super interesting article from the Journal of International Business Studies
Oh, cool.
called International Business Studies.
Mhm.
Are we really so uniquely complex?
Mm-hmm.
And the authors, Herman Iguanas and Kelly P. Gabriel, they kind of challenge this idea
Okay.
that a lot of people have, that IB is like uniquely complex.
Yeah. It's funny because the article doesn't actually deny that international business is complex.
Right.
It more kind of dives into why we think that way.
So it's like a perception thing, not necessarily a reality thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so then let's unpack that perception.
Yeah.
Why do we see IB as being so uniquely complex?
Well,
The article mentions these words multiplicity and multiplexity.
all right.
What do those even mean, and why do they matter?
So multiplicity, think of it like having to deal with a ton of different actors all at once. So in IB, you've got all these different industries, right?
Right.
You've got this web of relationships between companies and governments and different cultures, and it's all happening on this global landscape that's constantly changing.
Yeah, that sounds pretty complex.
And then multiplexity.
Okay.
That refers to the layers of relationships and interdependencies.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just about individual companies doing their own thing.
Right.
It's about how all of them connect and interact within these complex networks.
So almost like a giant interconnected web where everything affects everything else.
Exactly.
No wonder it seems complex.
Yeah.
And the article even highlights how all this complexity influences the theories that we use to understand IB and the methods we use to study it.
Totally. And they have some really good examples in there.
Like what?
Well, they talk about born global firms.
Oh, yeah.
These companies that are international right from the start.
Yeah.
They have to navigate all these networks and cultural differences right out of the gate.
Yeah.
That's tough.
So they're already dealing with this level of complexity that most local businesses never even have to think about.
Right from the start.
Right.
But then the article kind of throws a curveball.
Oh.
It argues that IB isn't alone in this complexity.
Hmm.
Other fields like organizational behavior, strategic management, even entrepreneurship,
Okay.
they share a lot of the same challenges.
Interesting.
That surprised me at first, I have to admit.
Yeah. It's easy to kind of get caught up in your own field
Sure.
and assume that it's way more complex than everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you step back and you actually compare,
Right.
you start to see all these similarities.
Oh, can you give me an example?
Yeah, think about organizational behavior.
Okay.
Researchers in that field, they have to grapple with individual differences,
Mm-hmm.
team dynamics, and whole organizational cultures all at the same time.
Oh, wow. So they're dealing with multiplicity, too.
They're trying to make sense of multiple actors all interacting within this big, complex system.
Yeah, just like an IB.
Okay. And what about dynamism?
Mm-hmm.
That constantly changing landscape.
Oh, yeah.
I imagine other fields experience that too.
Totally. Think about strategic management.
Okay.
That's all about adapting to volatile environments.
Makes sense.
Or entrepreneurship,
yeah.
which inherently involves a lot of risk and instability.
Right. You never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So all these fields
Yeah.
are dealing with dynamism.
To some extent.
Yeah, that kind of mirrors what we see in IB.
Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting is all these fields that we've been talking about,
Yeah.
they all draw on a lot of the same interdisciplinary ideas.
Oh, like what?
Like economics,
Mhm.
psychology, sociology, you name it.
So it's they're all tapping into this same well of knowledge.
Exactly.
It's kind of coming at it from different angles.
Ex-
Okay, so if IB isn't alone in all this complexity, then why do we tend to perceive it as being uniquely challenging?
Right.
I feel like there's something deeper going on here, beyond just the nature of international business.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like what?
This is where the article's argument about false uniqueness bias comes in.
Oh, okay. What is that?
It's this human tendency to underestimate how much we actually share in common with other people.
Okay.
We tend to focus on what makes us or our field unique, and we overestimate those differences.
I can totally see that.
Yeah.
It's when you think your taste in music is super unique and then you find out tons of other people love the same obscure bands.
Exactly.
So you're saying this bias could be affecting how we view IB.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we get so caught up in international trade agreements and cultural nuances and global supply chains
Right.
that we forget that other fields are dealing with equally complex challenges,
Yeah.
just in different contexts.
So how does this bias actually play out in the field of IB?
Mm-hmm.
Does the article give any, like, specific examples?
Yeah, it points to a couple of key mechanisms.
Okay.
Selective accessibility and focalism.
Oh, those are big words.
Basically, we tend to focus on what's right in front of us,
Okay.
our own little area of research,
Right.
and that shapes our perception of the whole field.
So, like, we might overlook valuable insights from other disciplines
Exactly.
just because they're not in our immediate circle.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we shouldn't be emphasizing IB's uniqueness, what should we be focusing on? Like, what's the alternative?
The article argues that recognizing the similarities between IB and other fields is actually more beneficial,
Okay.
especially now that IB is like a mature field.
So it's about breaking down those silos
Exactly.
and allowing for more exchange of ideas and methods.
Yeah.
Okay, I see where they're going with this.
Yeah.
But, like, how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
How do we bridge those gaps and start learning from other fields?
Well, the article points to the JBS Decade Award winners
Okay.
as like prime examples.
What are those?
These are like some of the most influential IB research studies.
Okay.
And a lot of them achieved that influence by focusing on like shared concepts and methods.
So they weren't just about, like, what makes IB unique.
Right.
They were about finding that common ground with other fields
Exactly.
and building on that.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific examples?
Yeah, absolutely. One that comes to mind is Knight and Kavuskel's research on born global firms.
Okay. Yeah.
They used insights from entrepreneurship
Oh, interesting.
to explain like the innovative behavior of these companies.
So they took, like, an entrepreneurial lens
Exactly.
and applied it to an IB phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a cool example. Are there others?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Another good one is Johansson and Vollen's work on internationalization processes.
Okay.
They drew on like business network models from strategic management
Interesting.
to kind of demonstrate how concepts from one field can inform another.
Yeah. So it seems like there are all these potential connections
Right.
just waiting to be made.
There you go.
Okay, so we've talked about how other fields are complex too,
Mm.
and this false uniqueness bias
Right.
that might be blinding us to some valuable insights.
Mm.
But what does all of this mean for, like, us, the listeners?
Yeah.
Why should we care about challenging this perspective?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
By recognizing those similarities between IB and other fields,
Yeah.
we open up all these opportunities for like cross-pollination of ideas and methods.
Okay, I like that.
We can learn from each other's successes,
Mm-hmm.
borrow tools and frameworks,
Okay.
and ultimately develop a much richer understanding of the global business landscape.
It's like we've been focusing on this one ingredient when there's a whole pantry of spices out there
Exactly.
waiting to be explored.
Right.
And by blending these different perspectives, we can create something truly delicious,
Yeah.
like a more nuanced and impactful understanding of IB.
For sure, and it goes beyond just IB.
Oh, yeah. This idea of breaking down silos and, like, embracing interdisciplinary learning.
Yeah.
It's relevant for anyone who wants to deepen their understanding of complex issues.
This has been so interesting.
It really has.
It kind of makes you wonder, like, if IB isn't so unique, what other fields could we be learning from?
Right.
Are there any, like, unexpected connections that we're maybe missing out on?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one that we should all be asking, no
Mhm.
matter what field we're in.
Yeah. I mean, who would have thought that, like, political science
Right.
or anthropology could have something to teach us about international business?
Totally.
But when you think about it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, globalization touches every aspect of our lives.
Mhm.
So it's got to be intersecting with all these different disciplines.
For sure, even the ones we don't always think about.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what this article is really getting at.
Okay.
It's like a call to action to kind of break free from those silos.
And embrace how interconnected knowledge really is.
So we need to look beyond just our own little corner of the world
Yeah,
and see the bigger picture.
exactly.
So maybe there is a lot more us out there than we realize.
I think so.
And that's pretty exciting.
It really is.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive.
Already.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired
Me too.
to get out there and start making some of those connections.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us, everybody.
It's been fun.
And until next time, keep those minds open and keep exploring.
Absolutely.